Talk with Rajon.
Hello world and welcome back to Real Talk with Rajon with Nothing's Off Limits. I am your host, Rajon Lewis. And as you guys know, one of the goals of Real Talk with Rajon is to shine a light on the great things that are happening right here in the Low Country. I know there's amazing things happening in other places. Atlanta, I hear about it all the time. New York is really great and popping, I hear you. New York, California, Chicago, Cleveland, anywhere else you can name. But I'm telling you that right here in the Low Country, we have people who are doing great things and trying to change this community one step at a time. And tonight's episode is a very, very special episode because we are talking about the local elections. It's so important that we as a people, whether you're black, white, Asian, Hispanic, it does not matter. We have to be educated about the people who are running for these elected positions. So with that in mind, tonight my guest is none other than Ms. Linda Lucas, who is running for Charleston County School Board. Thank you so much for joining me, Ms.
Thank
Lucas.
you.
All right. So for those who do not know who you are, I'd love for you to introduce yourself to the audience.
As he said, and I want to thank you again, my name is Linda Mosley Lucas, and that's what's on all the cards around town. I am a recently retired school educator, a licensed professional counselor, a parent advocate, and all of the above that requires service to people. I've been around for a long time. Usually in every room I go into, I'm probably the oldest person there, which is a blessing to be able to say I'm alive and well. But I'm not finished. There's a lot more to be done. You talked about popping at Lansing, New York, and other places. It's time for South Carolina to pop with the education. Everybody comes here because it's the place to be for fun, games, smokes, so they say, businesses, and housing. But what about the children?
Great question. Great question. I love that. I love it. I love where you started the discussion. Is what about the children? What about the children? So let's talk about the children. And let's talk about, before we even get there, what led you to want to run for office? And for this specific office?
Well, some years ago, I knew that I was going to run for county council. That I expected to do that. But when I retired, I had no idea that I was going to be in the school board running. It was, some people call it divine intervention, and some people look at that and think there's no such thing. But literally, I was sitting on my chair in my living room, about to throw away some old newspapers, and one fell open, and it talked about the school board and the League of Women Voters and some other things, and I put it aside because I was going to throw it in the trash. But it stuck with me, like you put a seed in the ground and you forget, then you see these little shoots coming up. And it kept coming back to me, and I'm thinking, well, why am I thinking about that? I don't want to do anything with the school board. And then it stuck with me, so I went back and read the article, and it said they're having a workshop to tell people about running for the school boards. And so I said, okay, Lord, are you telling me something? If this is you, I'll go to the workshop and I'll see, but you'll have to tell me more than this. So one thing after another, confirmation after confirmation. I don't know if you know the story about Gideon and the fleece with if you make it dry here and wet over there, and the next day if you make it wet here and dry over there, I beat Gideon. I've asked for all kinds of confirmations, and so I had to say yes.
Wow. And I love that. So your background in education. I remember you said you retired. So what's your background in education? Just so in case anybody has that question.
Okay, I have a master's in education. I have a dual master's in clinical and school counseling. I said I'm a licensed professional counselor. I'm also an ordained minister, an elder in my church. I am on a number of community boards, so I'm a community activist as well. Children have always been my passion, even when I was a child.
Wow. Okay. All right. Cool. So what do you believe you can bring to the table when it comes to Charleston County School Board that may not be there currently? Because currently there are some disparities. They're definitely there.
Yes.
They're doing the numbers of research pieces and everything to try to figure out what the underlying issues are. But what do you think that key issue is, and how could you specifically help change that?
First of all, I believe that there's no one person with the answer. I think it takes a team. You took off your football shirt that you had on earlier, or your basketball shirt, which I thought was really great because it symbolizes teamwork. What I see missing on the school board is teamwork. So I'm a climate changer. I'm believing that we're going to come in and do some conflict resolution, some teaching about personality differences, how to get along with people who don't look like you or sound like you, even eat like you, because the purpose is the children. So right now they've been doing all kinds of battles but not doing enough for the children
Mhm.
because they're personally into battles. So first of all, I want to change the climate. Second of all, I want to make it very transparent that all the stakeholders, students, parents, business, community agencies, all those folks need to sit at the table to help us come up with policies that impact everyone.
Mhm.
I'm really concerned that we still have this, they call it educational gap between the races.
Mhm.
It's more of an opportunity gap that's racially influenced, which means, it means that the kids who are impoverished, usually the kids of color, Latino or African American, are the ones who are in the schools for the most part that have fewer advanced courses or even physically dilapidated situations that they
Mhm.
live in or less safe situations. Whereas those kids whose parents are probably college trained and have the money to send them to college have the better school
Mhm.
settings, the better opportunities, more experiences. And it shouldn't be that way. You keep hearing people saying things about they should have equal access no matter what the zip code,
Mhm.
because the zip codes tell you where people live and how they live.
Right.
And then they bring up that school choice idea.
Mhm.
School choice is fine if it were equitable and equal for anyone to be able to go,
Mhm.
but it's not happening for
Yes.
everyone. They can even put that school of choice in the middle of an impoverished area, School of the Arts, academic magnet, and everybody living around there can't necessarily go there.
Wow.
So if you're going to have a school where kids can take 11 AP courses because it's a unique school, that's great. But I think the neighborhood school, North Charleston High School, should have the same kinds of courses.
Absolutely.
You shouldn't have to look for a special school to get the best. Every school should be the best. Your home school should be just as good as the one 5 miles away.
Wow. I love that. I love that so much. One, because I'm a North Charleston High School graduate.
Yay.
So I take North Charleston High School so seriously. And when I look at what's going on around North Charleston High School and I see the things that none of that help and none of that funding and none of those resources is going into that school.
Mhm.
Like, how would you as a county council, as a county school board member,
Mhm.
how would you address the issue of the gentrification impacting these schools?
Well, one of the things with gentrification is that it comes from the top down. It's allowed at the top. I think money is doing too much talking.
Mhm.
So I probably would get the legislators to come in too as part of the stakeholders to see what's actually happening. And they're the ones who can make the laws. They're the ones who can say to some of the mayors, yes, you can have something built over here. No, you can't have that built. For example, Mount Pleasant has kind of put a moratorium on some of the businesses building. They're maintaining civility. They're not just running for the money. So I think that one of the things we need to do is to sit down at the table and see who is what impacting. We can have the best housing, but who's living there? Even the teachers can't afford some of it. That's one of my other purposes, is to make sure that our teachers are considered stakeholders and that they are treated the way they need to be treated, instead of being held accountable for everything and told what to do with one new policy this year, another new policy next year, and it's just chaos.
Awesome, awesome. And I do want to reset. Thank you so much for that answer. It's a very clear and concise answer. Thank you so much.
So we're starting.
I want to reset just to let people know. This is Real Talk with Rajon. I'm your host, Rajon Lewis. In tonight's forum, tonight's local celebrity spotlight shines on Ms. Linda Lucas, who is running for the Charleston County School Board. We've been having lots of discussions about what's been going on in the community. There's been a lot of back and forth about who to support or who not to support. As a journalist, I guess I would be in this case. My goal is to expose as many people who are willing to be exposed through my platform and any platform that I have. So I do want to go to a couple questions just to make sure that we do get to them. One, Anjan A. Davis, AJ, when I told you he was going to be on. His question was, what was the last school that you taught at?
Hersey Elementary School in North Charleston. And
You want
a whole list?
No, he just asked the last one.
Okay.
That's what if you want to write down.
Okay, before Hersey, I was at Clark Academy, September P. Clark Corporate Academy. I opened Clark Academy in 1990. Was Charleston County's first dropout prevention programs for the kids that nobody wanted. Actually, some of the kids didn't want themselves. But we maintain that a relationship of a family setting while teaching the kids that they do matter and giving them reasons for hoping and dreaming again. We help them to dream again. A lot of them had given up. And some of them hadn't given up, but they were playing too much and failing and were set up to drop out at some point. That was Clark Academy. I was there 12 years. Before that, I was at Wando High School. I did a dropout prevention program there for at-risk youth who were truant high or other things not coming to school. That was with a grant that we did, and all those kids did well, and they did complete. It was a small group. Before that was Buist Academy. I opened Buist Academy in 1984, I believe it was. 84, 85, I can't remember which year it was, because we did the whole summer. And before that, I was a speech clinician at, I've been at Courtney, Sanders Clyde, A.C. Cochran, Hunley Park, so north, south, east, and west.
Wow.
All over.
If that's not a resume, I don't know what it is. I'm just saying, if that's not a resume, I don't know what it is. First of all, I want to thank you. I actually have a friend, a good friend of mine, Officer Ricardo Perry, who went to Septima Clark, and he speaks so glowingly of what that school did for him. So I can definitely testify to the greatness of what those programs did. So I want to thank you for that as an educator myself, just for those things. So again, thank you so much for coming on. I do want to ask another question because I want to make sure that I do get to the audience questions. It says, about the children is a misnomer. The teachers and staff are on the front line, and they are the ones who directly impact the kids. So many of us feel unsupported in addressing the issues with the kids. What is your plan to address the teacher and staff needs concerned?
One of the main things that I want to address is the fact that we need to do better with our teacher recruitment as well as retention. And I think the part about retention answers what you're asking, because people are leaving for various reasons. They feel unsupported. And my list of suggestions, which includes not only the pay raise, but housing incentives and going back to school and not having to pay for it, and even giving 10th graders the opportunity to get educational classes and get their associate degree by the time they graduate, come in as teacher assistants, finish 2 more years, become teachers. So we continuously have teachers. But I want the new teachers to not feel like they're thrown out to, oh, what is this?
Yeah.
That they should have mentors, not that they have to talk to in the parking lot, but they have every day a chance to speak with their mentors. Actually, and this mentor will be someone who's been experienced, who knows what they're going through and can kind of walk them through, sometimes run them through some things that they need to know. I also believe strongly that the principals, and most of the principals that I've been with, and I've been with a bunch of them, really do care about their staff. And you can see it from the attitude and the climate in the building. But there are some who are a little bit insensitive at the times that they need to be more sensitive. Teachers are human beings. You can have an education, but you're still human. And so when someone gives you an assignment, they need to not just say, here's your assignment, go do it. They need to sit down and say, how are you doing? Treat you like you matter. Even ask your input in some of the changes they're about to do in the building. Teachers do need support. They need to be treated like they count, because they do. Who's going to teach the kids?
Wow. I love that. Thank you so much. AJ, I'm loving these questions, man. Thank you for sending them. All right. I got another one from AJ. Great answer, by the way. How would you get folks to the table given the very contentious environment surrounding education that exists in Charleston County now? Historically, one of the biggest obstacles has been a lack of trust between the board and parents and the community. What plan do you have to address that? From Anjanae Davis.
Thank you. You're really good. I guess you're going to have your program too.
I told you, AJ's that guy.
I like that, AJ. One of the things I want to do to get people to the table is that, first of all, we need to clear away some of the, I don't want to be negative, we need to change some of the personalities who sit around the board table. Can I say it like that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then I want to have representatives from every other stakeholder area, including students, high school students, parents, and educators, to be able to meet with us as advisors, so that if we need to make a new policy for discipline, for example, we're not just saying this is the discipline. We're saying, let's look at what this means and what do you think, and getting some research from other places where it works, because we don't have to invent the wheel or reinvent it. A lot of things that we're going through, other people have gone through and have come out on top. There have been other failing districts that made it. We can look at what they've done, but it begins with relationships, with respect, with you have to trust that we are going to start afresh. You can't sign your name in blood. You just have to trust a little bit to make it happen. And they will see a little bit at a time that it will happen because we're listening.
I want to ask this question, and it really goes back to the business piece, the community piece, where do you feel as though it's possible to somehow get more of a community buy-in from these businesses that are surrounding the schools? I go back to a North Charleston High School. The fact that we have a school like that in the middle of that area with that upbuilding, what kind of things could the school board ask legislators to put in place that would make sure that those businesses that are thriving right around this school are sewing back into that school and making sure that that school culture is benefiting from those businesses being around?
It's the reciprocal relationship,
Yes.
because the businesses need the kids. And the kids need the business. Not only for business partners to bring in backpacks and those kinds of things, which are good. But, you know, if it comes to money, if you could give someone some kind of tax relief for, say, employing a student, or for letting them have an internship, and a tax relief for that owner would be really admirable for him, while that student is learning the skills of a business, whether it's an entrepreneur business or a skilled business, whether it's at Boeing, which they don't have everybody they need. Our kids, unfortunately, the majority of the kids in the third grade have had what they call a 65 to 80% reading level, below the reading level. So we need to have Boeing and other businesses come in, and some of them be lunch buddies, not peer mediators, mentors, places where we can have kids go and shadow. Dr. Postlewaite, the superintendent, has started some of that with MUSC, but we need more. We need our kids to see what goes on in the business. I think that would also help with how they treat each other, because you're not going to do some of the childish things that you do in school at a business. And yet you're going to have differences, but there's ways to handle conflict without shooting and cursing and beating somebody up. So I think the businesses will benefit with the tax. The kids will benefit with the actual hands-on experiences and the school to career opportunities. And so I think it's a win-win situation.
Wow, thank you so much. Like, you're quite amazing. That's all I want to say. All right, cool. So I just want to make sure that when we reset, this is Real Talk with Rajon. I am the host, Rajon Lewis, and what we're doing tonight is education. We're doing a discussion about education with Charleston County School Board member, council.
That's in the future.
In the future. Charleston County School Board candidate, Linda Lucas, who's doing an amazing job answering every single question that's come through. And there have been some pretty heavy hitters. My dude AJ is in here asking the big ones. And Kwanzaa, I'm getting to your question right now. Thank you so much for joining us again. I really appreciate that. And if ever it gets to be too much, just give me the look and I got you.
Okay.
All right? But you're doing really well. All right. So we're going to ask, so Kwanzaa Washington has a question. It says, how do you feel about so many strong black teachers being removed from predominantly black schools while being replaced by mainly white female teachers?
I've heard that, but I have not looked at data or actual information to see what that means. I've just heard it from people saying it. My personal experience has been, about maybe 20, 25 years ago, there was a tendency for African American male leaders to be pulled down and transferred to different other positions when they were just beginning to rise and were being recognized by the community, and the kids needed to see the black male. So I knew that happened some years ago because I was there to see that. Now, whether there's a tendency for that to happen, I'm not certain, unless they're talking about the principals, because they did switch up some great principals to go to some other schools, and a couple of them were African American. The real deal is that not too many people want to be teachers anymore. And if not too many people in general want to be teachers, even fewer African Americans want to be teachers. So that's the issue. We need to get more African American teachers. So maybe you need a school of choice. Maybe we can open some schools of choice rather than always complaining that somebody else is doing it. If anybody else can do it, we can do it. And we shouldn't let the racial part be a problem. I don't know the details about that. That's how I feel about it.
That's definitely a great take. As an educator, I definitely can tell you that I've seen the flight of people of all races from education, and definitely that includes people of the African American background. As someone myself who's actually looking to get out of education, I can definitely tell you, like, you know that you're needed in the classroom, and you know the benefit for the larger community of you being in the classroom. But there are definitely so many barriers that really make you question. And that's just me speaking about myself. Question, could my services be used better elsewhere? So you know, it's definitely a rough thing it's a rough thing to decide. it really is a rough place to be, considering the climate of education as it currently stands. But like you said, you spoke about teacher retention.
Yeah.
We talked about things that you can do to try to keep these teachers. I do know that there are lots of initiatives, and I'm sorry if I'm rambling, but there are lots of initiatives that are working to get more African American male teachers in the school. For definitely sure, the Call Me Mr. program
yes.
at College of Charleston, which started out at Clemson, is now in 22 colleges in the country, 18 colleges in the state. In fact, no, we're 18 colleges in the state, and I think about 40 colleges in the country now. We're in a lot of colleges.
Can I say something about that? You can tell a Call Me Mr. teacher. You just look at a person who has had special, I don't want to say grooming, but a special reason for doing what they're doing. And none of them are doing it for the money. They're doing it for the heart and to make sure that the kids can get what they got and give it back. It's a human thing to do. When you teach somebody, you're not only teaching them how to live, but you're teaching them how to give. That's living.
Yes.
And so I'm proud when I do see the Call Me Mr. folks. I think that's great. Yeah, we don't have enough.
Praise God. Thank you so much. So much. All right. So AJ, back to AJ. So the graduation rates for Black students in the district in particularly Black males has been extremely low. What efforts would you push for to address this issue?
Well, I would like to get more data on that. I'd like to see specifically which schools, which years, and what happened in those schools those years. For example, is it North Charleston? What's their rate? Go down to Burke, what's their rate? And look at what's the underlying reason why people don't finish what they set out to do. Maybe there's some support systems that need to be in place in those areas. And you get a whole rate, you don't get the little pockets to see what contributed to that rate. So I want to see what happened in each area that made that rate what it is, and go back and fix those areas. If that means that you need, someone was saying we need more mental health counselors. If you need an additional mental health counselor, not going between 2 and 3 schools, then we need to do that. If you need to have the parents come in and do more in terms of making better decisions, not just waiting for the principal to make the decisions, but the parents to come in and say, culturally, for example, this is not something that we approve of. That kind of reading or those kinds of books are an insult to my family. So I'd like you to include us when you're looking at some of the literary things you're going to do. So I think I'm back to the whole stakeholders thing again.
Yes.
So I use that for everything.
And it definitely takes the village. It definitely takes the village to uplift this situation. Like you said in the beginning, no one person is going to be able to solve these things. But I definitely do believe that through collaboration with people who come to the table with open minds and open hearts, with the mission first in mind, that's definitely a possibility. So I definitely thank you for that.
May I add something to that?
Yes, you can.
One of the schools that had been failing at one point decided that they were going to start putting their funds, instead of focusing it as a formula like Charleston County does, they have some kind of formula that everybody gets a certain amount of money. And so those schools that are in the more impoverished area, they don't get enough. So this state decided to give the most money to the most neediest schools to help them come up with the resources and equipment and even specialized teachers that they needed. So we need to not just talk about it, we need to do it.
Wow. Yes. All right. I'm gonna get one more, AJ. This is the last one, B. It's my last one, because I don't want to keep here on that. We can keep here. Kwanzaa, I got your question, and AJ, I got your question. And if you guys have any other questions, I want to let you inbox them to me, and I will send them to her, because I don't want to hold her all night, because she got to drive back home, and it's dark, because she got lost on the way here. Okay, cool. It's a great question. Disparities in student discipline tends to place many Black students at a disadvantage. How do you intend to address the glaring disparities in which Black students are suspended 9 times higher than whites in elementary school and 6 times higher in middle and high school?
When I was on the constituent school board in District 4, I realized that there were some things that we needed to do, and that there was a tendency for certain schools and certain administrations to just suspend a child. I mean, for sometimes the silliest thing. And you have to realize what happens when you suspend a child. What happens to him or her? Where do they go? They go home. What do they do? Because probably nobody's at home. That invites other things. You know, there's an old saying about idle hands. As the devil's workshop. Oh, I tell you, if I wanted to look at some things in terms of pregnancy rates and drug abuse, I'm sure some of those happened during those I have nothing else to do times. If a child has to be suspended, you have to really make sure that there's a legitimate reason. And it should be not because you just assume that he did it because he looks like he could have done it because his pants are sagging or because he has darker skin. That's that stereotyping. So it has happened in reality and that's true in the community. That's why Reggie Burgess and the police are really trying to show people that they're relationship people. They're not just out there to hurt people, but to protect people. Yeah, the chief. Yes. So what I would do, I think, is to make sure that we create together a process, including the restorative practice that they're using, which they tried to introduce for about 4 years since 2014. The CJAM, they call it KJAM, as a ministerial program, as a justice program with a group of ministers from all walks of life. They were asking the school board then to incorporate the restorative practice, which is a relationship kind of decision. Let me think through what I've done, some conflict resolution, even some peer mediation, which I always had at Clark Academy and which I always had at Hersey, peer mediation, so that kids learned to help each other, to think through instead of pulling a weapon or trying to get back at somebody in the neighborhood. We're in this world together. So I think the restorative justice is a good piece. I'm hoping that they will not just leave it at the 4 or 5 schools where they're trying it, but they spread it to those schools that really need it the most. And whether that's in impoverished areas, so be it. We want our kids to see that there are ways to handle conflicts without trying to kill somebody.
Awesome.
And that they do count.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I want to ask this final question from Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa, I got your question. I told you I'm going to get to what? I got you. All right. So she said, AJ, I can't ask all your questions, dude. I got you. All right. I'm going to inbox her all the rest of your questions. See, all your questions, I got you. All right. Kwanzaa question. How important is the arts in your vision for the future of CCSD?
I can't imagine life without arts. Life is art. Art is life. We wake up in the morning and we look for what we're going to wear, and that's been created by someone. How we wear it is created by us. How we walk in it, how we talk, it's all art. How we eat, it's all art. Even how your parents discipline you, there's an art to it. It may not feel good, but it's art. Art is history. Throughout the Bible, it was art. It's not something new. So when people say, we're going to do STEM but not STEAM, what is that? Science.
Arts,
You got to put arts in there. Also, there's a therapeutic thing about art. If you have to just work all day and not have any outlets, I think that creates a lot of pressure too. When they say all work and no play, it doesn't mean that you're going to waste time, but you need to be able to apply your gifts, identify your gifts, strengthen them, the singing, the auditioning for singing like your daughter's going to do. And when a child sees that they're recognized for what their artistic skills are, it does something to them.
Yes.
It opens up the world to them. If a child can dream, they can do anything. But if they can't dream, if they're shut down, it's like there's no life there. So art is a part of life.
So what kind of programs would you like to see going on within the schools that would help support that?
I'd like to see every school having its own arts department and not have an art teacher go to 2 and 3 schools, 1 day here and 3 days there. And then the kids have to remember what they did 2 days before. And every school should have an arts department. And it should be just as equally important as anything else, science, social studies, because we have an artsy world. If it were not so, why are they coming to Charleston?
Yes.
What you're doing is artistic.
Hey,
I look at you and I see art, your hair, your shirt. This whole house is beautifully artistically directed and orchestrated. So I don't think there's anything we can do without art. Even the way they make the money, there are prints on the money. It's not just green paper. Not that that's worth a whole lot, but even the coins have some kind of figures on them. History has art. I don't know if I answered the question because I can keep going.
I love that. I really love that. I love that. That was really good. Arts. She said, arts, band, strings, vocals.
Yeah.
I think I want to stay there. I think I want to stay right there for a second because I went to North Charleston High School. Again, I'm going to talk about North Charleston High School because I went to North Charleston High School. You may have went to Burke. I don't care if you went to Burke. I went to North Charleston. All right.
Okay.
Sorry, we lost to Burke last week, so I got it.
I thought that's what this was.
I got. I went to the game, homecoming game, and like our band, I remember our band used to be so,
Yes.
you know, and I don't know
What happened?
happened because I went to the game the other day and all we had was like 3 drummers and like it was not
Shame.
the North Charleston. The North Charleston band used to win competitions. We used to travel around the state, across the country to competitions. Like, why has the Charleston County School District seemed to abandon arts in that way outside of the School of the Arts?
I have no idea, but we need to get it back. Do you know what art does for a child who has a pattern of making poor decisions?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how calming music is and dancing? Leaping through the air, I did that. Whether it's African, modern, or whatever it may be. You have a child in your class that can't stop beating. There's a reason why he's beating. A percussionist is born a percussionist.
Mhm.
He's been beating not only in his mommy's tummy, but as soon as he came out, she said, "Boy, stop!"
Mm-hmm.
Grandma, stop! And it's
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
and when you say, "Okay, I got a class for you," you're going to, oh, wow. So you can do this now, and you can do your lesson, and you can intertwine.
Right.
And he might become anything he wants to be with that percussion.
Mm-hmm.
Arts.
Wow. Hey, she wants the arts back in the schools.
Yes. Mathematical too, you know that.
Definitely,
Yeah, okay.
definitely. I want to thank you again so much for coming on here tonight.
Thank you.
I'm glad that we were able to give your platform a voice here tonight.
Thank you.
And I'm excited about what's going to happen with you in the future. I'm a fan. I have to be objective, but I'm definitely a fan from sitting here. If they want to find out more about you, if they've watched this video and they say, hey, I want to know more about Miss Linda Lucas, how can they find you and meet to talk about what's going
Well,
on?
I do have an email. May I give that?
Yes.
You guys still do email? I
We
know there's a
definitely email.
generational gap with
We're not
it.
going to send you a letter, but we'll email you all that.
Yeah, okay. I have stamps for the letters, but it's Linda, Linda_Lucas, Lucas, 8, the number 8, at yahoo.com. Linda_Lucas 8 at yahoo.com. And they tell me I have a Facebook called Linda Lucas for the Children. I also have a campaign phone number, which I would have to look it up. So let's just stick with the email. I get those more quickly than anything else anyway, right? Yeah. Okay, thank you.
All right. I put all of those in there for you. I put
Thank
your email address. I put Linda Lucas for the Children.
Yes.
If you have more questions, if there's something, I know there's a lot of other stuff. AJ, you know you my dude. I love you. You my dude. I couldn't get to all your questions. That's also payback for the time that we had the panel discussion and you cut me off.
Oh.
You know, this that's with you. You know I love you. For real. But this has been an amazing interview. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for allowing me to help display
Thank
what
you.
you're doing. And I want to encourage you in the future. I can definitely tell that you're a God-fearing woman and you
Yes.
walk in your purpose, and I love that.
Thank you.
So come with
Praise
May.
God.
I'm definitely a fan, and if there's ever anything I can do to support you and to help you out, please let me know.
Okay, you got it. I don't forget that.
Hey, please
To God
don't.
be the glory.
Hey. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much,
Thank you
Miss
so
Linda.
much.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
hope you guys enjoyed the interview. I hope you enjoyed hearing from her. If you still have questions, you can tell that she can answer them. Like, there's no question she can't answer. She has the background. She has the resume. She's done the work. Now it's time for us to find out who we want in those seats. We had lots of people running for different purposes, different reasons. They have different backgrounds and different agendas. I try not to take, oh my gosh, seriously, 9 or 7, you doing that? Anyway, I try not to take sides because I want to remain as objective as possible. But at the end of the day, it's all about the children. It's all about who's going to make the best decision for these children, who's going to work together, work collaboratively for the good of the children. If we can't do that, we're wasting our time. If we're not focused first on how we're going to benefit the children who are supposed to be our first constituents. Of course, they can't vote, but they're impacted the most by anything else.
Mhm.
The community that we're going to have in 10, 15, 20, 25 years is all impacted by the children. So we got to make sure that we back the people who we believe is going to do the best job for them. I can't tell you who to vote for. All I can tell you is to vote your conscience, because your vote is your voice, and that's how you speak. If you don't vote, you don't have a say, because you missed your opportunity. That's flat out. That's the best way I can put it. My name is Rajon Lewis. This has been Miss Linda Lucas. This is a Real Talk with Rajon. As you know, I normally do the show every Wednesday night, Local Celebrity Spotlight. local celebrity spotlight, shining a light on the great things that are happening right here. Next week, I have another guest whose name I can't remember right now, but that's okay because they'll be here next Wednesday anyway. And Sunday night, of course, sports, music, politics, you name it, we discuss it. Real Talk with Rajon live. And I will be talking about this bomber situation that's going on. You do not threaten President Obama on my watch. It's not going to happen. Anyway, if a man doesn't stand for something, he's bound to fall for anything. That's Real Talk. I'll see y'all next week. Peace.